AITA for telling my African-American friend to stop gatekeeping my culture after she criticized a white friend wearing my traditional clothes? I, 26F, am of Asian descent, but I won't specify which country for privacy reasons. I have a really diverse group of friends with people from different races and backgrounds. We get along well, and typically, we don't have many issues except for the usual small misunderstandings that friends sometimes have. A problem came up recently, and I'm hoping to get some feedback on whether I'm in the wrong here. So, the other day, a video circulated in our group chat. One of my friends, a white male, had been traveling around Asia, taking some time off work to explore different parts of the continent. He visited my home country and, while there, wore some of our traditional clothing to attend various cultural events. For context, the clothing is incredibly comfortable, especially for the climate, and it's also seen as a form of celebration when people want to experience and wear it. In my culture, we get excited when people wear our clothing, as it makes us feel appreciated and recognized. It's not seen as an issue, and honestly, we welcome it. Now, this friend of mine loved the experience and ended up wearing the clothing during his travels. He shared a video of himself wearing the clothes and attending an event in my country. I should mention that the people he met while in my country were incredibly supportive, and I know they gave him their blessing for wearing the clothes. Even in our community here, among friends and other people in my cultural background, there was no issue with what he was doing. People thought it was cool that he was embracing my culture. The problem, however, started when some of my African-American friends saw the video. They became upset and felt the need to comment on it, expressing their outrage. One of my friends, in particular, went a step further by calling him a colonizer and accusing him of using his white privilege. The comments were pretty harsh and seemed to be directed more at my friend than at the situation itself. A few others in the group chimed in, expressing their displeasure as well. When I saw the reactions, I felt a bit confused and uncomfortable. I understand that issues like cultural appropriation are sensitive topics, especially within the context of race and privilege. However, I also felt that the situation was different in this case. I decided to step in and explain my own culture's perspective. I explained that in my country, wearing traditional clothing is generally seen as a sign of respect and admiration. It's not something we typically get offended by when people from other cultures wear it. After I clarified my thoughts, most of my friends, including a few of the African-American ones, calmed down and apologized. They admitted they didn't realize that my culture viewed it differently, and they understood why I wasn't upset. However, there was one friend who wouldn't let it go. She insisted that he shouldn't be wearing the clothes and continued to accuse him of appropriation and white privilege. She even started to claim that I wasn't seeing the larger picture and that it was offensive that he was using my culture in this way. At this point, I was starting to feel frustrated. I had explained my perspective, and most of my friends respected that. But this one friend kept pushing her point, calling him a colonizer, and accusing me of not being woke enough to recognize what she considered cultural theft. The situation became a bit tense because I felt like my friend was not only disregarding my views, but also imposing her own on me. She kept going even after I told her I didn't find it offensive and didn't mind him wearing the clothes. To be honest, her insistence was beginning to feel more offensive to me than the actual situation with my friend wearing the clothes. It was as if she was gatekeeping my culture and telling me what I should and shouldn't find acceptable. I had already made it clear how I felt about it, yet she refused to drop the issue. Eventually, I got to a point where I was ready to confront her about it. I felt like I couldn't let it slide anymore. So, I decided to tell her bluntly to drop the subject. I explained that I found her outrage more offensive than my male friend wearing the clothes, especially since I had already clarified my position. I told her that while I understood where she was coming from, I didn't appreciate her trying to tell me how I should feel about my own culture and that I felt disrespected by her insistence on invalidating my opinion. I wasn't trying to be cruel or dismissive, but I was genuinely upset. The dynamic had shifted from a simple discussion about cultural appreciation to a power struggle over who had the right to speak for my culture. And I felt like she was crossing a line by assuming that she knew better than me, especially since it wasn't her culture that was being discussed. After I told her that, she seemed a bit taken aback. She didn't really respond to me directly after that, but the group chat became awkward. A few of my other friends reached out privately to tell me that they agreed with me and thought I was in the right to stand up for myself. However, the tension with my friend persisted. She hasn't really spoken to me the same way since, And while I don't want to lose our friendship over this, I also don't want to feel like I have to constantly defend my feelings when it comes to my own culture. I want to know if I was wrong to tell my friend that her outrage was more offensive than my white friend wearing my culture's clothing. I understand her concerns about cultural appropriation, but I also feel like she crossed a line by continuing to push her perspective on me after I had already made my feelings clear. So, AITA for standing up for my own culture and telling her to drop the subject. It's been a week since this incident, and I'm still trying to process everything. I value my friendship with her, but I also feel like she overstepped in this situation. I'm curious to hear what others think. Did I handle this poorly, or was I justified in telling her to let it go?